We ready then? All right.
Yes.
I'll call this meeting of the Rental Housing Advisory Board to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Blunt. Erickson.
Here.
Ernst. Javaltis.
Here.
Lord.
Here.
I'm going to try to mute you, Tim.
Okay, sorry.
Garcia. Payne. Hutchinson.
Here.
And DeGroot. Someone has pretty good feedback, so if we could all mute ourselves.
Okay, that brings us then to item C of the agenda, citizen statements. Are there any citizen statements for this meeting?
None received.
Moving on then to item D, approval of minutes from the December 9th, 2020 meeting. I would entertain a motion to, is there any discussion of the minutes?
Do typos count as needing correction?
We need a, yeah, I need a motion and a second, and then we can correct those.
So
All right,
moved.
so I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the December 9th meeting.
This is Lindsay. I'll make a motion.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Todd, for a second. Any discussion?
I just noted two typos. Page 2, second from the bottom paragraph, the last sentence, it says long-term solutions, and just instead of just saying long-term. And then on page 4, was that found? The first one, was that found?
Yes.
Okay. And then on page 4, third paragraph from the bottom, last sentence. Also be tenants who did not fill out a form and turn in to their landlord. So it says and turn in, so it's and. You just need a D there. So that's all I have. Was it found?
I have one item. This is Tim. I have one item to mention on page. On page 5 or page 6 of the PDF file, under affordable housing study update, it just says Mr. Davis stated, and then there's nothing. I believe we just talked about that there was no, or that the study was like going to move ahead as had been sort of laid out in September, right? That was pretty much the gist of it.
Correct.
Are there any other corrections, discussion? Hearing none, do we need a motion to approve as amended, or do we just vote on the current motion?
If it'd be a friendly amendment with the first and second, that would suffice.
Sure.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion for a friendly amendment to the minutes.
Lindsay, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Linda, I second.
So all in favor of approving the minutes as amended. I don't know what the cleanest way to do this will be given the technology setup. Should we just go one at a time?
Yes, it needs to be roll call. And we were told again to
Okay, so a roll call vote, please.
Erickson,
Aye.
Javeltis,
Aye.
Lord. Lord. Hutchinson,
Aye.
Ernst.
Aye.
Don, are you there?
Mr. Lloyd, are you on with us? What should we do?
We still have a quorum. I think we can continue, and I see his phone and his name on my screen, so hopefully he can hear us one way or the other. It's just that we can't hear him.
All right. If he wants to like add his vote after the fact, I mean, I think it's gonna pass. The minutes pass, so regardless, he can add his vote when he gets back on. So let us move to item E, AdvoCap Wisconsin Rental Assistance Program update, and we have Lou Shear from AdvoCap with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. The information that I can share with you today is not very complete, and for that reason, I ask that it not be published or shared publicly with anyone else at this time, because I don't have a lot of the details, and so I don't want information or half good information drifting around. The state of Wisconsin has received over $380 million of money to assist with helping people pay rent and helping people pay utilities. Again, the CAP agencies across the state of Wisconsin have been asked to step forward and handle the assistance. And again, we will be working with Energy Services to use their database, and the state will be cutting the checks. So at this point, if any landlord has anybody that's past due in rent, you should encourage them to apply for emergency energy assistance, or call ESI. On February 15th, ESI will actually have a new 800 number dedicated just for WERA. But right now, they can just call in or use the online application. We're anticipating starting this by February 22nd, and you would think I would have far more answers for you, but I don't. We know that we're starting out with $50 million in a pot, and that at this time, I know I can pay up to 12 months of past due rent. Tenants must be financially negatively affected by COVID. They either have had much larger expenses, or their hours have been reduced, or they've been on unemployment. They must show that they're at risk of being homeless, or that their housing stability is at question. So we know people aren't necessarily getting 5-day notices. The last time the landlords attested to the fact that money was due and that could affect. And the last thing is that priority will be given to persons who are 50% or less of county median income. The persons who are at 80% of county median income are eligible. What I don't know is when that income number, how do I calculate it? So if I owe rent from June of last year to now, I'm not sure how I'm going to calculate the rent. That's yet to be given to me. This money is coming from the federal government, and this time the rules are being written by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. It's a little bit different. We do not know if we'll be able to pay security deposits this time, but AdvoCap is working on different avenues to see if we can assist. We do not know that we'll be able to pay late fees. We know that there are some landlords that have a very large amount of late fees. And we know that we may or may not be able to pay lot fees as we had paid for mobile homes in the past. Those things I do not know. But what I do know is that there is no maximum amount per month. So the $1,000 cap that we had with RAP for 3 months or $3,000 total no longer exists. So there is, last time, if you remember, the state of Wisconsin got $30 million, of which it was able to spend over $28 million total. This time we have $380 million. And so you can see how this could add up quite quickly for landlords to get a substantial amount of assistance, rental, or tenants could get some substantial amounts paid back of past due rents. So I don't know all the specifics. As soon as we do, we are going to put a kind of a pre-screen on our website. We're also sharing that information with 211. But as I said, I really don't want this to get out to too many people because I'm not ready. We're not taking wait lists. We had left almost 400 people on the wait list last time. We are going to open it up, and we are told to open it up, I believe, on February 22nd. Energy Services indicates there is no backlog at the present time. They're all up to date. All of their applications are in. Last time, if you remember, it was like a 2-week or more backlog for them. They are now covering all of the state of Wisconsin, not just the original counties they covered. So they've got a big job ahead of them. So I can try to answer questions, but as I said, I didn't get a lot of specifics yet, and the state is ready to put everything out once they hear the final guidance from the Treasury Department, which they're literally checking on every 10 minutes.
Are there any questions for Ms. Shear about the assistance program? Please identify yourself by first name when you begin speaking.
This is Alan, just so we have the minutes right. I wasn't sure what you said about how many dollars are available in Wisconsin.
We know that there's over $380 million set aside for both utilities and for past due rent.
Just for Wisconsin.
Correct.
Great.
I see that Don Lord has asked that landlords apply, not the renters. That is not correct. That's exactly why I don't want this information out there. There's talk that landlords can apply. I do not have specifics. And I'm concerned about duplication when it comes to having landlords and tenants apply. There are other organizations that also have assistance through CDBG, through some of the other funds, and we're looking at ways to make sure that people are getting directed to the best possible source for them.
This is Lindsay. Just a question about distribution, if it'll be kind of first come, first serve, or are you planning to do kind of targeted for certain income levels?
Because if somebody had told me how to plan for this, how to budget for this, I have no idea. I mean, we helped a lot of people with RAP last time. We know some of those people are still not made whole. We have to do arrearages first. I have no idea what to expect. I thought at the time 880,000 was a lot of money to spend in 5 months. We spent almost $2 million. I mean, it's crazy. I see it being a little bit more labor intensive, as I said, because if somebody tells me they didn't pay rent since June of last year, and I found out we paid $3,000 of RAP, it's going to take time to sort through all of that. But it's like I said, it's first come, first serve. We believe that this program has enough funds to run to September. How we know that, I don't know. And then there's talk that there's going to be a reallocation, meaning that either through this other states and the United States have not spent their money, and Wisconsin has spent all of theirs and could use more. These funds may be redirected to other states. So we're motivated to spend as much of this as we can from now till September. It may run to the end of December. They're saying 12 months, maybe 15 months. And this is the stuff, like I said, I'm just very hesitant to say this is the way it's going to be, because I haven't gotten our handbook, nor have we had training yet. As they keep saying, we're building the airplane as we're flying it. The good news is we have a better frame than we did, because we do have RAP that we worked on. With the federal government making the rules, there's going to be some slight differences. All the forms are changed, none of the same forms. Do I think they'll be similar? I think they'll be very similar, but I think that the federal government will put a few words in, and and it's great. I mean, we need them to be two separate forms anyway, separate different programs.
Lou, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. Yeah, I just sat in on another webinar earlier today where I was told that it would be the landlords were applying, and then they would not need to give the tenant notice of delinquent rent due, and then the tenants would have to consent to the landlord applying. Have you heard anything like that?
I've heard that I've heard of a lot of things that don't make any sense to me. I have heard something similar to this, but I don't want this to be the thought that this is what landlords should do on behalf of their tenants. I've also heard that if landlords don't want to accept the funds and keep them in housing, I can write checks to people. I don't want that to get out there. I don't know enough to say that it's certainly not the expectation. Is there exceptions? I've heard that there are, but I don't know enough about the rules to speak to them.
Yeah, well, I've had three of these type of meetings today, and one of them dealt with this issue. And I was told that 20% of the money was going to be allocated for energy assistance. Have you heard anything about that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Anyway, I was in this meeting today, and I don't know, I can only get, I know there's 25 billion for the whole United States, and there's something like 390 million for the state of Wisconsin. And I think 322 are allocated for 60 some counties. They have an actual allocation for bigger counties per county. So I don't know how much do you think obviously this is going to be a huge amount of money. How much more are you going to get? Have you any idea what Winnebago County is going to get?
There's no allocation for counties. One pot. Dane County in the city of Madison, Milwaukee County in the city of Milwaukee, Brown County in the city of Green Bay are entitlements, and they've got separate dollars. That I know.
Okay. I have a link that I can get you to the United States Treasury.
And I've seen that, and I was on the phone. I was on the phone with the funders today.
Okay.
And so I appreciate it, but I don't need the confusion. I need the information coming from my funders. I don't need interpretation.
Well, yeah, Lou, I'm not trying to confuse anything. It's just that I attended another one, and I just want to make sure that people get good information. I trust exactly what you're saying. It's just that there is this confusion right now, and I just don't want you to make aware that there are people saying other things, and I just want to make sure that when this happens that everybody's on the same page.
John, I absolutely agree, and that's why I'm not. I can't say it's not going to be that way. But nobody has seen the final rules from the Treasury Department. The ones that were issued originally are not in existence any longer, and they've been pulled. So I think people are trying to piece things together, and I'm being very pessimistic about this in the sense that when the rules are out and clear, we'll be happy to share them with as many people as we can. Where there's no advantage to not spending out this money. As I said, there's just so many things that we're going to have to double check, because there's a number of different sources out there right now to help. It'd be a great program once we know the details.
Yeah. Do you happen to have a timeline on this at all?
Oh, isn't that ESI, Energy Services, Inc. is going to start their hotline on the 15th. We are expected to roll it out February 22nd. They're
Okay.
expecting guidelines from the Treasury Department any minute. They feel that they have the forms and ready to share with us. Once they can double check the guidelines, what they are.
Okay.
So I'm being told I have to be on deck for the 22nd. Nobody's been
Okay.
trained. I have no paperwork. I have nothing yet. So, hey, here we go.
Yeah. Okay.
When I know, you can rest assured that, and I say this to landlords all the time, the governor is going to put out a big press release, and our county should be putting out big press releases. We know that there will be more information, and it'll try to be
Yeah.
as concise as possible. But I think a lot of people are insinuating and interpreting things that may be old, and I just don't want to. I don't want to spread that just yet.
Yeah. Understandable. But your agency is going to be the.
Question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Local capital handling.
Your agent, but Lou, you're going to be the agency. Advocap's going to be the agency for that funding in this area. Is that correct?
Yes, unlike
Okay.
Winnebago, Green Lake, and Calumet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Shear about the new program with the new funding?
It's Linda. I have, I think, a simple question that you can answer, but one that I actually don't know. And when you talk about 80% of median income, and that's written in a lot of places all over the place, I don't know what that means. I don't know the number that means. Isn't there a number connected to that, like a real live number?
There actually is a real live number. And Mr. Davis, do you have access to share that with the group at some point? Because
It depends on the household size, and we have a chart for that, so we can send that out to the Rental Housing Advisory Board, so you can see what that 80% and 50% numbers are based on household size.
Okay, great, thanks.
and just to let you know, this number usually changes in March. So
I wanted. Yeah.
it may be
I
updated.
I want to interject also that if the person is unemployed due to COVID, they will definitely be below 80%.
Just as a number, if I remember correctly, a family of 4 at 80% is earning approximately $64,000 a year. I mean, just to give a real raw number
Okay.
on it. I mean, 80% is like I said, it's, we're finding people who were making 2 people working and now only 1 is working. They're still making money, but not as much as they were. Some people are just totally unemployed. I keep saying, Marine here in Fond du Lac has never made more motors, has never made more money. They're still making Army trucks everywhere. They're still making washers and dryers. There's a lot of people who are not necessarily been affected by COVID long term, but then we know that the Bagel Meister here in town has not been open through all of this. We certainly know there are a lot of families who are suffering. So we're trying to figure that out. We'll find out more starting the 22nd of this month. I'm sure we'll start getting calls. I'm expecting a tsunami of calls. We have 12 people currently going to be working on it part-time and looking to hire other additional part-time people as we find need. We have an ad out right now.
Any other questions for Advocaps, Ms. Shear?
I think you said you don't, this is Alan talking again. I don't think you have a number how much Advocap will be spending in Winnebago, Green Lake, or Calumet counties yet.
The state has decided not to give us allocations at all. It's going into one pot into the state of Wisconsin, except for the entitled companies or agencies that I listed before. First come, first serve. They're putting $50 million in there now, and they'll replenish it as needed.
Okay.
I mean, it would be interesting if they were only going to give 20% for energy. It would be curious if that was the number. I have no idea.
Anything else from this year? Well, hearing no other questions or comments, thank you for the update. This year we'll certainly be interested in how things roll out and the numbers associated with this program, and definitely wish you and your people the best of luck in the rollout.
Well, thank you. And we are doing a better job of keeping the record so I can report specifically for the city of Oshkosh. Not the only community who wants that information. So we're doing a better job at tracking that of the request and the amount of people we're being able to assist. Hopefully my reports will be more meaningful in the future and I'll have much more updates with real numbers in them.
And our next meeting would be April, so I expect we'd want to invite you back again in April.
April, I'm sorry, April what?
Ooh, April
14th?
Yeah, 14th at 3:30.
I will put it on my calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Ms. Shear. We'll move on then to item F of the agenda, approving the Tenant Bill of Rights. This was on the agenda from the last meeting. The only update to the text was the addition of, or the clarification of the protected classes. I am looking at page where are we? Oh, yes, page 8 of the agenda packet, under section 1, item D, freedom from discrimination. We just made that language in line with what national standard, or like the wording for fair housing standards nationwide. So specifying race, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. And then the only other addition was specific links and contact information for relevant agencies. That's section 4 at the end of the bill, would be page 9 of the agenda packet. Is there any discussion or questions?
I wasn't here for the last meeting, so this is the first time that I saw this. And I cannot get on board with the whole, I guess the first cover page, all the whereases. I just would disagree with most of them, to be honest. So the actual, go ahead.
I'm sorry, is this Todd speaking?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. You said you disagree. My response is that these were on the agenda 2 meetings ago. And then or from the October meeting, we decided we'd make the few additions, as I mentioned, specifying the classes and the contact information in our last meeting in December, and then bringing it here today. If you want to make your objections, Mr. Hutchison, I'm happy to hear them.
Yeah, I don't think I have really a problem with the tenant bill of rights per se behind it. It's just all the resolutions, the imbalance of power between landlords and tenants. I think that probably depends on your perspective, which landlords probably.
I would argue that it's in the law.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I would argue that the imbalance is built into state law.
Right, I understand that's your perspective, but I guess I'm saying I would disagree with that. And then
Okay.
the same with the state lawmakers through influence and having preference of landlord rights. Perhaps some do, but I don't know that all state lawmakers do. Same with the next one, housing providers. There may be some housing providers in the city of Oshkosh that do this, but certainly not all. I think that kind of goes through all of these, and it seems rather inflammatory almost and confrontational between landlords and tenants, and I don't think that's what we're trying to do here. And so I couldn't get on board behind supporting this. I don't know what I'm only one vote here, but that'd be I would vote against it.
Okay, would the addition over to some of those clauses address that concern?
You were a little garbled there, but I think what you said that if we modified the clauses, I would be on board with it if we could modify them. If we could modify the clauses, yes.
It's Linda. It's Linda. I have a question, Tim. Did you take this from someplace like maybe Madison or Milwaukee? They have some Bill of Rights. Did you take this from somewhere?
This, as I explained back in October or maybe August, was modeled off Kansas City's Bill of Rights. The specific clauses, or the specific Bill of Rights part. So I'm talking about pages 8, 9 in the packet are largely modeled off the Kansas City bill with specifications to the Wisconsin law. The first page, the whereases, is assessments based off observation and what we have seen transpire in terms of changes to state law in order to affect changes to local law pertaining to housing.
Well, okay. So I just have a comment with regard to this first page here. Having studied social work, teaching social work practice, teaching at the university, history bears these things out, and there's facts. There's an apartment association in the city of Oshkosh. There's no tenant association in the city of Oshkosh, and that's just one example of a lack of balance of power for tenants in the city. So I don't know if I want to go through all of these, but when I read through them, I thought, well, yeah, that's a given. That's a given. That's a given. That's a given. So that's just my opinion of it and my understanding of it and my experience of it. So I just wanted to say that.
This is Lindsay. I wonder, I don't want to minimize the experiences of some renters in Oshkosh. I wonder if for some of these whereas clauses, if putting the word some housing providers in the city of Oshkosh misrepresent and deny some housing providers. So it's not saying, it doesn't imply all, but there may be some. I don't know if that would help more folks get on board with it or at least feel more comfortable with it.
That's a good thought.
Yes, I believe Mr. Heitz said he would agree to, or he would be on board for changes to those clauses.
This is Lindsay again. I had one other thought on the second page under 1D. Correct me if I'm wrong, Oshkosh has added a protected class of gender identity and expression. Is that right? I'd have to look back there. And I don't know if that's, unless I'm missing it, is that listed on here? I think
No, it's not.
sex would be different from that.
Yeah, if we're, yeah, it's gender identity. I don't think, well, I don't know how the federal government views the word sex in this instance, if that includes gender identity. I would be fine with adding gender identity to the list. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts, discussion? Questions? Objections? Okay, so based on my following of the comments, then there are 3 proposed changes. Looking at page 7 of the packet, we could change the second clause or add a term to the second clause to specify or make it less generic. I'd be open to suggestions what those terms would be in order to maximize accuracy. And then I guess the same would be for clauses 3 and 4, how to better phrase those to keep the accuracy of the statement while avoiding inflammatory reactions. Any suggestions on what that language should be?
This
Can you
is,
explain what the Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act is?
Yes, that's a national law which sets the standard, or which sets standards for landlord-tenant law. Several states are members. Wisconsin is not. And so it's sort of like a, I believe it's via, if I'm understanding my own research correctly, it's a sort of a voluntary agreement at the national level between states about landlord-tenant laws. Not all states are members. Some have their own protections without being a member, kind of like the state, or the state of Wisconsin has some laws on the books, but other states such as Arkansas have no tenant protections on their books at all. So just helps establish like where the gaps in protections are in the state.
Well, having said that, I mean, I don't know what's in there, so I would have to take that out. That would have to be removed entirely for me. I think whereas 2, 3, and 4, if you added some before each, either some state, some housing, that would get me comfortable with that. But I'm still not comfortable with the idea of us saying that there's an imbalance of power. I mean, maybe there's an imbalance of power, but I think if you talk to certain landlords, some landlords, they're thinking that the imbalance is the other way around. And I think what we're trying to portray here through this document is that the imbalance is with the landlords. I think a lot of times landlords feel like their hands are tied to the courts, that they have to, and through other methods. So I think that they really feel that the imbalance is the other direction. So I don't know that I can get on board with that.
Well, you provide one example of like court issues with landlords. I would argue even in the court system as now is still preferences landlords over tenants because tenants, especially low income ones, don't necessarily have the opportunity to go to court to say, defend themselves against or to say like argue for unreturned security deposits or things like that. And that fact is taken advantage of by some landlords. Furthermore, as Linda pointed out, there is a apartment association in the area, and there is no tenant association. I'd be happy to explain my experience with trying to start a tenant association again, if anyone's interested. But I think you know, my story, if nothing else, anecdotally supports that there is a major imbalance in power. Furthermore, all recent changes to state law have benefited the landlord directly. The omnibus landlord-tenant bill written by landlords for landlords preferences landlords without giving anything to the tenant. So I think both locally in terms of who is wielding power, who has a voice, as well as on the state level, especially when there are landlord-friendly legislators who sponsor these bills and then tell me things like it doesn't matter if the facts that the bill sponsors claim exist actually don't, as long as it gets passed. That speaks pretty much to an imbalance to me. But this is a debatable question, I think.
It's Linda. I would just like to say the very fact that there's a rental housing advisory board, I think speaks to that. There is a rental housing advisory board. Why is that? Probably because most of the inspections that are done, there are 6 violations. That says something. Why are there 6 violations every time there's somebody goes in and there's a complaint and an inspection is done and there are 6 of them? That says something.
Additionally, I think the language of the imbalance of power clause, I mean, could it doesn't necessarily suggest one way or the other, like the imbalance can still exist and affect like both sides of the issue. As you say, perhaps tenants are empowered in some ways that landlords aren't. My argument is that in the things that matter, in terms of things like finances, habitability, there is clear legislative preference for landlords over tenants.
It's Linda again, and I just want to point out at the very start of this COVID crisis, I asked if the city of Oshkosh was able to put a moratorium on evictions. And of course, there's a law that says they can't. And thank goodness the federal government was able to do that. But could Oshkosh do that? Nope.
And we know also, I don't know to what extent the county is willing to act, as we've seen how, especially COVID-related, discussions at the county level have gone. I think what we need then is a specific recommendation for like the change. So, so Mr. Hutchison, if you want to move for specific changes and that gets a second, we can discuss on that. And then if that passes, I'll be happy to revise and resubmit for next time.
Okay, so I would recommend striking the first one that talks about imbalance and the
entirely.
Yeah, without taking the time to try to figure it out, I would say I would just strike the first one that talks about imbalance, and I would strike the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one that talks about imbalance, and then I would change the other 3, number 2, number 3, and number 4 by adding the word some. And I would strike 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th one entirely. And so that would be my recommendation. I guess I'm making a motion to do that.
So I'm saying you said number 6 also for the Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act line?
Correct.
What's your objection to that?
I'm not even sure what it is, so I have a hard time putting something in there that I've never read the document. I don't know what it talks about. So without being familiar with it.
All right, well, you had that opportunity like 4 months ago too. If you want me to provide you the text, I will do that. I can send that to Mr. Davis to send out to us. But that's always been in there. So
we distribute that to the whole advisory board.
Pardon?
Well, that's my motion. Those are to strike those whereases and to make the change to the three that I outlined before. So I don't know if there's a second or not, but that's my motion.
Do you have a second? So just to clarify for the minutes, Mr. Hutchison is moving that we strike the first clause in its entirety. That clauses 2, 3, and 4, we add the word some, as in the context of some state lawmakers, some housing providers, and some housing providers for clauses 2, 3, and 4. And then striking clause 6 about the Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act entirely. Is that accurate?
There was also striking number 5, because it talks about the imbalance of power again.
And you disagree that COVID caused problems in this regard?
Absolutely, I agree that COVID caused problems, but it's caused a lot of problems for a lot of landlords as well as tenants. So I don't know that it's necessarily an imbalance of power there.
I mean, what are you saying? Like evicting against moratoriums? I mean, that seems like pretty unbalanced to me. Especially if you're agreeing that there's a situation. So might I suggest instead of striking that clause entirely, it be amended to just say that COVID-19 has negatively impacted relationships between landlords and tenants in Oshkosh?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so Mr. Hutchison is moving that we strike the first clause entirely, that for clauses 2 through 4, we add the word some, as in the case of whereas some state lawmakers, and whereas some housing providers, and whereas some housing providers, that the fifth line about, rather the fifth clause about COVID-19 be amended to, instead of say exacerbated power imbalance has created further or has negatively affected, shall we say, relationships between tenants and landlords. And then removing the sixth clause entirely about the Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. Is that accurate?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Lord wants a second, but I think he can't, I see in the chat, but we can't count the chat as part of the discussion. Mr. Lord, can you say second or anything? Mr. Lord, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, I
Yes.
seconded, but I'm cut out 90% of the time here, so.
I appreciate your perseverance.
I'm trying to hang in there, buddy.
Yep, we got the second now. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so all in favor of amending the bill to reflect the changes suggested by Mr. Hutchison?
We'll have to do that by roll call.
By roll call vote.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Ms. Meyer, could you do a roll call vote for this motion, please?
Erickson,
Aye.
Javaltos,
No,
Lord,
Now we're voting on the motion itself.
Yes.
On the motion to
Yes.
amend.
Yes. Hey. I second Todd's motion and I support it.
Hutchinson, Arndt,
No. Nay. that 3-2?
I didn't hear Ms. Erickson's vote, unfortunately.
I said aye.
Okay,
Yeah, it's 3-2.
3-2 in favor of the
3-2
motion.
in favor. Okay, we will amend. I suppose that means we should table and revisit it next time with the additions or with the changes as we did
I believe,
before.
I think since the motion was amended and voted on, now you have to vote on the actual resolution as amended now.
Okay. So do you have a motion to vote on the bill as amended?
Lindsay, so moved.
Do you have a second? A second to the motion to vote on the bill as amended.
Well,
Can I second it? Or-
Did we, I heard a first, but I didn't hear a second. Is there,
Yeah, we're waiting on a second.
Mr. Ernst, I believe it's going to fail due to lack of a second.
Okay. So due to lack of a second, the amended motion fails. Where does that leave us?
At this point, we can put it on for a future agenda item, but it did not pass today. And we, what I could do is we could redraft it based on the motions that were voted on and put it on for further consideration. I think I might need to check to see who can actually put it back on for a vote, since this basically it dies for lack of a second, is my understanding.
Yes. Okay. I would be interested in revisiting it at some time. So whatever can be done to, I mean, I'll be happy to redraft and resubmit for consideration in the future if that's how it should be. Or who's doing the I don't know who's doing the redrafting, but
What I'd suggest is that I could check with our legal department and find out what rules procedure would have to follow to go down that path. And I could report that at the next meeting so everybody would know. But I don't
that
know
sounds good.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, we don't have many we don't have many failed motions on this board, so. All right.
It's Linda. I have a question. As far as D goes, and Lindsay's suggestion to add, not sure how she worded it, sexual identity,
Gender identity and expression.
gender identity.
Gender identity.
If that's included, if we can just add that.
Well, at this point, it's failed, so.
Oh, I thought this was.
We can add anything we want, like later after we figure out after Mr. Davis asks legal, how we should proceed from here. So.
Yes, I apologize. I'm not an expert in Robert's Rule of Order.
Nor I. All right. I think then we move to item G, approval of the 2021 strategic plan and action plan. Which is covered on pages 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 of the packet. The strategic plan is that the first few documents, which sort of overviews the general things we will do and try to accomplish, or like our general mission, and then the action plan reflects more specific ways to accomplish those goals. So as you can see, it's been amended from the last go around and updated to include things we've already done, as well as focus on the most pressing matters of the day. So is there any discussion, questions, or comments on the action plan or the strategic plan?
Do we have 7 board members or 9?
We have 7 persons. Do we need to add alternates to the membership description? Or ought we add membership or alternates to the membership description?
I believe we can do that since that would be accurate.
Cool. I like accuracy.
This is Todd again. Is the, do we actually report to the council monthly?
Well, we have our council liaison, I think, is tasked with that.
Yeah, so I report monthly at council meetings as a liaison.
Discussions, questions, comments, changes. Again, this is the same document that was on the agenda last time. We tabled it till now, so there could be like more votes.
It's Linda. I agree with what's written here.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the 2021 strategic and action plans then.
It's Linda. I approve. Move to approve.
Thank you.
Lindsay,
Do you have a
second.
second?
Lindsay, second.
We need a roll call vote then to
Yes.
approve
Erickson?
these plans.
Erickson,
Aye.
Javaltas,
Aye.
Lord,
Aye.
Hutchinson,
Aye.
Ernst.
Aye. I didn't hear Mr. Lord's vote. Is it unanimous or?
I said aye. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
So the motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, everyone. We got some stuff to do for the next year. At our next meeting, I would recommend everyone kind of look over these things and bring ideas for actionable things we can do to meet our goals for the next meeting. This brings us then to item, item H on the agenda, Winnebago County eviction data. Who has that update for us?
This is Lindsay. I can share, I don't know if this was supposed to be me, but I do have some data that I can share on evictions. So I just updated the totals, and this is from my work with the Winnebago County Eviction Prevention Task Force. So this is based on data pulled from CCAP, the Public Court Access Records. So In December 2020, we had a total of 51 filings, eviction filings. So that brings a total for the year of 2020 to 637 filings. So these are just filings that are were filed with the court, didn't necessarily go through or were dismissed or sided with the landlord, just filings. And then for the month of January of 2021, we had a total of 47 filings.
I'm sorry, what was the total for, what were the December 2020 numbers?
Yep, December 2020 was 51. And to give
so the grand total for 2020?
Yep, grand total 2020 was 637.
Okay, and that appears to be fewer than in 2019, but more than in 2018.
Yep, and to give some context or reminder, with 2020, there were 3 different eviction moratoriums in place throughout the year. So the state eviction moratorium that was kind of from the months of March through May. Then there was the CARES Act, the federal eviction moratorium that only applied to people who were in federally or rental properties with federal assistance or federally related housing or financing. That was from end of March through July. And then the last eviction moratorium that's still in place is the CDC eviction moratorium. That was started early September and is, I think, extended, I don't remember what month, but it's still in place. And that's only for renters who meet certain criteria and they have to sign a declaration form.
Right. And it looks like based on this data that evictions, even with the moratoriums, have been roughly at, or in many months of 2020, it seems exceeded the 2016 to 2019 averages. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've been seeing the increase since 2016. And I think even though 2020 was lower for total number of eviction filings, still knowing that there were 3 different eviction moratoriums, it's not like we were at 0. So
This is Linda. Plus, there was assistance in 2020. There was assistance.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Comments or discussion on this data?
Can you hear me, Tim?
Sure can.
I guess this is a different wrinkle than I'm looking at. One of the biggest problems we have is that, the supply of rental housing is not going up. I found that interesting that, according to this, if this data is correct. What's that?
We meaning who? You said the biggest problem we have.
Oh, I see. I mean, as far as in the rental community, the supply is in 2016 we have a supply of 24,697, and in 2019 we actually had a drop of units. And from what I've been told, that to keep up with the supply, we need at least 100 to 150 new units coming on board a year. So that'll be a real problem rehousing anybody that has an eviction, because whenever you have a stagnant supply and demand is going up, you're going to find that standards and things for people to re-rent, it will go up. So anyway, I just wanted to add that wrinkle. I know that's not necessarily evictions, but I was a little surprised to see that the supply of affordable units is actually going down. So the economic conditions aren't such that we're seeing an increase in the number of units.
I think that's acknowledged, or something that was discussed in the affordable housing workshop in September as well, and kind of will be within the scope of that study. So I know the availability of housing is within the scope of that study. So I think we'll have more specific data on that in the future. Even if there are decreasing numbers of units, though, I mean, it obviously affects the issue. I don't really see why that is implicated in the COVID or in the eviction moratorium discussion. But yes, I would agree that is a problem that we'll have to keep in mind moving forward.
It's just an observation, Tim, nothing more.
Okay. Is there any other questions, comments on the data?
This is Todd. Just a question. Will we have this updated at every meeting, evictions? Or is this a one-time thing?
Well, Ms. Erickson has been put together this data for us, so I don't know.
I'm happy to make sure to bring this data at every meeting if people want it. I've been updating it through our group anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's good information to have. I don't know, maybe you don't even have this information. I'd be curious, and this is kind of to Don's point of how many renters there are out there, if this is county, how many renters there are county-wide, so that we can kind of track it as a percentage. It would be kind of to see what percentage of renters are actually being evicted. And as the number of renters goes down, but the evictions go up, it's a higher percentage, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that eviction rate at the bottom of that table, I'll have to update that for 2020, but that does kind of show, at least for the number of renter occupied housing units divided by how many evictions were filed. That's the percentage of eviction, or the eviction rate.
Okay, I'm sorry. You already have it there. Thank you.
That's okay. Yeah.
Any other discussion here? Alrighty then, I think we can move on to item I, website and social media discussion. And Linda, you wanted to discuss these items, right? Or am I mistaken there?
For the meeting before, I said I took a look at it. I raised the idea of just talking about them, like our city website.
Oh, right, just having a discussion every meeting about it, right? So, go ahead.
And then I just suggested that we all kind of take a look at our Facebook page and our website to just see if we had any ideas that could make it better. So I'm throwing out some thoughts or just throwing that out there. One of the ideas I had or questions I had, I'm wondering if it's appropriate to put our minutes on our Facebook page.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that.
I would wait till there are actually adopted minutes before you post those. Just
yes,
as an
of course.
Yep.
So for instance, today we could post December's minutes.
Yes.
Because we approved them, but not today's minutes because we're still doing them.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So who's responsible for doing that?
Well, I'm not. I thought Mr. Knoble was in charge of the.
Yes. I didn't ask
page at one point.
We can forward the minutes to Mr. Casey Cable, and he can post them as well. And
okay.
Anything else you'd like to have posted? That would be the send it to me or Mr. Cable directly, so that could be posted.
Cool.
And that's why I actually included that new resource. That was a new item that came to our attention that we have started posting as well from the Fair Housing Council.
Yeah. Right. That was a pretty interesting document. I thought it laid some things out pretty clearly, and could definitely be an easy to access resource for, for just easy understanding of fair housing guidelines. So is that already up on the Facebook page, or should we put it up, should we discuss putting it on there?
I believe I sent it to him. I don't actually check the Facebook personally, so I would have to check to see when that got posted. So I can report that at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion about website or social media? Post the minutes. We have this new fair housing guide link. We might as well also post our meetings if that's not already being done.
And agendas, yes.
Meetings and agendas, yeah. Because we can do the.
This is Lindsay.
Lindsay?
I wonder, since these are recorded and posted on Oshkosh Media too, not that, I don't know if anyone really wants to watch an hour-long meeting on YouTube, but we could post it in case anyone was interested, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think we should.
Yep, yeah.
All right. Any other questions, thoughts, comments here? Any TikTok trends we need to get on while we're still able? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to item J, other business. I would like to ask a question about the State of the City address. Is that happening? And if so, are we involved as we've been in the past?
I can give you a brief answer, but I don't have details. It will be a virtual State of the City. And if you are contacted, you will be involved. If you're not contacted, you will not be involved. And at this point,
Okay.
Community Development hasn't been contacted, and I don't believe rental housing has been contacted.
Sounds good.
It's Linda. I'm wondering, for future reference, if we're going to get any reporting from the inspections, or is that just on hold?
That is all on hold except for complaints, because we have not tried to reach out to any tenants for probably since last February or March.
Okay, can we get a report on the complaints?
Sure, there have been a few, so I'm sure they could do a report for you.
That'd be great, thanks.
I'd be interested in that too. If there's data available from the last year, the last 12 months, because we haven't gotten many reports,
Yep.
I would be interested in seeing the whole year's worth of data, if convenient,
Yes.
just to look at trends and things, correlations. Not to confuse causation with correlation, of course.
We'll have that available for the April meeting for 2020.
Sounds good. Are there any other items we want to put on April's agenda? Any other items outside of the scope of the strategic plan or action plan, I guess I should say, because we usually have a update discussion at meetings for those. So I imagine we'll keep doing that.
And Lou Shearer will be back. Is that correct?
Yes, made that invitation during the meeting, and she said she would be here.
Yeah, I remember that. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. I'll keep that on the agenda, first item.
Thank you.
This is Lindsay. Will the housing study have any progress by then? I'm trying to remember what the timeline is for it.
They want to have it done by May or June, so my expectation is you'll probably be contacted even before the April meeting. So I don't recall having any schedule for interim reports, but I can at least give you a report as to what I've seen. at that point?
Sure.
Sounds good.
I can give you an update as to where that is.
If there's no other suggestions or items for next time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Give a second.
Lindsay, second.
Does anyone object?
Ms. Meyer, do we have to do a roll call for that as well?
We do, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Woohoo.
Erickson?
Aye.
Javaltis?
Aye.
Lord?
Aye.
Hutchinson?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye. All right, thanks everyone. We'll hear from you in April. Stay warm, stay
Thank you.
safe, stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And